Hi everyone, welcome again to a new unit from Business Ethics and CSR. Today we are going to talk about ethical codes. We will see that their main function are as well as their development process. There are many definitions of what an ethical code is. Here are at least 3 examples. The first definition speaks of a document that has certain characteristics. It is a formal written document that is distinguishable from others and serves to guide the conduct of a company and its employees. The second definition highlights that it represents an effort made by the company to make public certain commitments to which it submits itself because the company identifies itself with the values and principles to guide it. In the third definition, it can be observed that the term will is used. It is the company's will to formulate reflectively, through a process of reflection, what are the shared responsibilities that it has as an organization. Each definition highlights a particular characteristic of the many that an ethical code has. We could say so that it is a formal written public document that the company decides to prepare to collect the values with which it identifies itself and that will guide the company and its stakeholders in its activity. So, why we should develop an ethical code in organizations? To express that commitment to go from words to action. Because what is not said seems not to exist. To put in written the commitments we make to ourselves. To think very carefully what is the things that we want to be written in that document. Because it helps us clarify who we are and who we want to be as a company. Because this is a way that there is no room for ambiguity and doubt. Because as Adela Cortina says, ethical frameworks without tools to integrate them into everyday life are empty, and tools without frameworks are blind. There are at least 2 types of styles of ethical codes, some based on values and some other based on norms and rules. Value-based codes are the company's calling card, the presentation. They mainly contain values such as leadership, respect, innovation, and the definition of each value. This type of code offers a proposal of how these values will be developed, always through a propositional style with positive statements. On the other hand, the code based on norms has a hierarchical, prohibited, punitive style. It contains a very long list of conduct that employees and, in some cases, all the stakeholders must follow. And in its presentation, it always delimits the scope of the application of the document. No style is better than other. The decision of which to apply will depend on the type of organization and the objectives set when preparing the code. However, it's advisable to use a mix of both styles, although primarily maintaining the values style because it is more open in guiding through values, which are elements that guide behavior. They do not tell you exactly what to do. They give you a guide, an orientation to what to do. It can be said that the main function of an ethical code is to help the company to form its character through guidelines for making decisions. These guidelines are the self-regulation and self-understanding. It is important to remember that the complementary between ethics and law. An ethical code is a preventive tool to train and guide people, whereas law works in a corrective manner once the criminal act has been committed. We can also find other precise functions of an ethical code, such as the aspirational function, which proposes ideals of excellence to follow, the educational function, which informs the member of the organization of its values and what is expected of them, and the regulatory function, which is the one of that predominates in the code that seeks to very clearly limit the actions and decisions of the member of the organization. So, what is the general objective of an ethical code? What is the purpose of the code? Improve people's ethical commitment and promote voluntary assumption of responsibility. Most of people need guidance. Even gangster mobsters have their own ethical code, guided by positive and negative values or even by anti-values. Then, at the other extreme, we have the people who always act correctly, like ethical heroes, like Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa of Calcutta. In the middle are the average people, us, who find it useful to have some values, some guidelines to guide us and to know what is expected of us in the professional and organizational context. These are the benefits of applying an ethical code. Inside the organization, we can find the following benefits. Promote appropriate models of action. Achieve cultural homogenization in the process of change. Reinforce positive internal behaviors and discourage negative ones. Promote a healthy pride in belonging to the organization. Obtain greater profitability by reducing functional cost. Outside the company, we can find this other type of benefits. Anticipate even before certain situations are regulated by law. Improve investors' confidence and attract highly qualified people, and also improve the corporate image. These are the key stages for the development of an ethical code. First, we have analysis of the institution and its environment. In this first stage, a qualitative and exhaustive analysis of the organization's document is carried out. Also, in-depth interviews are conducted, focus groups are carried out, and questionnaires are applied to all the people who will be affected by the future ethical code. This is the most important stage of all four, since not only is the perception of those affected collected about the values and problems that the organization already has, but they are also participating in the development process. Second, drafting of a first proposal. With all the information gathered about the values, principles, and problems that the organization has, the team of experts prepares a first draft in which they identify which are the most representative values of the organization and how these values can help to solve the problems that the company has through specific behaviors. Here we would be using a mixture of styles, values, and norms at the same time. Third, we have final formulation. The draft is discussed with the company's board of directors, and their suggestions are collected, such as the integration of a new value that guides the company in relation to the organization's future vision. And so the final formulation of the code is carried out. The fourth, development of the code of ethics. This is the last phase and is the presentation and development of the code itself. It is very important that the code is formally made known to all the people who will be affected by it. In addition, the participation cycle that began with the interviews, focus groups, and the questionnaire is completed so that people know what the result of their participation in the process of developing the code has been. Apart from a presentation conference with the company leader, it is important to hold training workshops to keep the code alive and to be able to adapt it to each department of the company. It's also recommended that the code be updated every 4 or 5 years, since people change, so do companies in their context. Here are some suggestions on what the ethical code should look like. It should be brief. It should be positive, not punitive. Focus on values, not only in norms. Develop in a participatory manner. Also, the ethical code should be open to a periodic review, should be integrated into the organization's policy, and also be consistent with organizational norms. So this is all for today. See you soon in a next unit.